matters.
Yes, and I'm gonna wipe the floor with you. Too much power makes people ugly.
Let me tell you a story. I knew a Corwood once. He said he was no longer a slave of reality. He said he was free. Free of all laws. Free to do whatever he wanted.
Welcome to the world of Xenozoic, one of the most acid-filled fever dream games ever made, right next to LSD. This is Clash, Artifacts of Chaos. It's a delicious little game made by Ace Team. Now, Ace Team's been around since 2009, and are surprisingly the ones behind the first two Clash games. I really thought the rights had been sold to another dev since it's been almost 10 years since the last Clash game. These are also the same devs that made the Rock of Ages games as well. Now, I know nothing about these games except for you play as a boulder.
That's just a stupid boulder!
It's not just a boulder! It's a rock! A rock! A rock!
But semi-true to his roots, Artifacts of Chaos is a brawler just like the first two Xenoclash games. The only difference being that this is a third-person brawler, with of course, some Souls-like elements, because every game has been doing that these days. Also, instead of getting a stupid human-shaped protagonist like in other games, we get this nice phallic-shaped protagonist named Pseudo. Now Pseudo's on a journey to protect the boy. Literally, his name is the boy. The boy has magical powers that basically trade one life for another, and the big bad Gemini is slowly dying, so they want that sweet, sweet life force. And everyone has to listen to the big bad, since the big bad holds this world's strongest artifact. And to beat that artifact, you need to snag 4 of the other special artifacts held by the game's bosses. Oh! The artifacts are some of the funnest parts of the game due to being linked to the minigame. And I'm a sucker for games inside of games like Gwent and the stupid coin thing from Flintlock. Now the game is a dice game invoked by the one law that governs most of Xenozoic. You throw dice in one of 4 quadrants and use stakes to affect those dice by lowering, increasing, or straight up destroying the other player's dice in hopes of having a higher number by the time that all stakes have been played. The winner gets to use a wagered artifact. Now these artifacts can do anything from making the arena foggy, making enemies likely to target each other, or just summon bees. Fucking bees to attack your opponent. For the actual game, like I said, is a third-person brawler, and it's pretty in-depth when it comes to its combat. If you know the Devil May Cry series and how the inputs work for that game, it's pretty similar to it. You're holding left, right, back, forward during any input to commit to different supers. You get a slew load of these specials and a slew load of different fighting styles, to which you can pick 2 of them to switch up on the fly, each having their own stats, like one doing more guard damage or posture damage to raw speed over the others. These all can be leveled up through finding dolls in the overworld. And speaking of leveling, there's a basic leveling system just like in any RPG. These levels and armor are the only way for you to put points in either power for effect damage, endurance for resistances, constitution for raw health, and aggressiveness for a fast rage bar feel. Now the rage bar is when things get fun, and like in the first 2 Clash games, when the rage bar is filled, you can go in the first person and lay the smackdown on someone right in front of you. After beating the snot out of them first, it's super useful and can quickly turn a 2v1 fight into a 1v1 fight. Or a 7v1 fight into a 6v1 fight. That was real fair. That was a real fair experience I experienced in this game. Speaking of unfair fights, you have some defensive options, and by that I mean you have the one. It's parrying. Parrying at least is easy to pull off and can quickly charge the rage meter to help change the tide of war. Other than that, your guard is stamina based and automatic. If you don't spam attacks and use your stamina up, pseudo auto-block and convert attacks into chip damage. This also drains that stamina, and it's a nice little risk-reward system. This punishes you for being sloppy in attacks, just like a Souls game would. And just like a Souls game, we have a run-back mechanic, and it's known as the Night Cycle. When Pseudo dies, he comes back at night in his night form, which is a more unphallic wood-shaped form, ironically. If you win the fight you lost, you get to come back to life. Now, if you die in that form, you're dead. It's game over. It's a more stressful run back than the Souls game. A game over will just reset you to your last save if you mess up. To help stop this dying from happening, though, you can get some potions to use. Now, these are pretty neat. You can use them by themselves where they only cover a small portion of your health. But if you go around collecting animals and twigs, literally twigs, you can mix them in a cauldron and make them a stronger potion variant that can cause various buffs, like hyper armor and an easier rage fulfillment. The cons to all these mechanics, though, is some of the fights border on being kind of unfair, and they cause the player to lame them out, baiting out parries for the rage meter for a quick win, or you straight up script the bosses and get some pop shots in their punish windows. The hardest thing about this game, though, is figuring where the fuck to go. The maps. Oh boy. Now look at this thing. It's one big star pattern with 5 subsections to it. Pseudo's starting area, the Kairu Crags, the Salt Marshes / coast, the Amukalai, I do not know how to say that, the Zonek Mountains, and the Korwid Territory, with there being a town hub in the middle. This whole thing is as basic gets. Basically, this map is only good to tell you what part of the zone you're in. The only thing I could rely on was my own mental map I made as I would go through the areas. And boy, does the game not hold your hand. I don't know if I'm just stupid, but the first area took me about 20 minutes to figure out how to progress to the next town. Turns out there's a whole mechanic the game doesn't tell you. There are these bramble fences that only the night form of Pseudo can go through, and when he does, you'll see candles leading to a flame-headed woodman. And when you beat the flame-headed woodman, the bramble fence in the area will burn down, allowing the Pseudo to continue. Took me way too long to understand that's what I had to do. Not 100% sure if this was based on user error on my part, but I'm at least 78% sure that it wasn't. And that's my biggest gripe against this game. Next to scripting bosses and laming them out, the lack of information on the map. It would have been amazing if this map worked like Silent Hill, but that's asking for way too much. These map zones, though, get us experience a boss or two in each one. And that's always the funnest part of these reviews and in the games for me. Getting to talk and rant about game bosses. For us, well, we'll count enemies we fight only once as a boss and special encounters as mini-bosses, as they happen multiple times. Now, for the first one you end up meeting in the mountains, it's the Birdman known as Vuta Yan. I don't understand how these names were made, but sure, do I love them. They are perfect with someone like me that has dyslexia. Now, Vuta's design, I guess it's Vuta. I do not know how to say this man's name. His design is great. I love it. He's a crow man, and the juxtaposition of him having a shovel that gives him a brace of a silhouette of a scarecrow, I love it. He's also very fast and very nimble. If he will keep you on your toes as he flips and jumps. Now this is a weakness because once you get the pattern down, you can bait out the jump and it becomes pretty easy. You can easy parry or you can easy punish. Now after you're running with Vuta, I'm still guessing that's how you say it, you run into your first mini-boss. His name's Reg. And trust me, we'll go over all the mini-bosses at the same time. There's a specific reason for it. You just have to trust. The final boss of the mountain area is the director. He's the head boss of all the street performers you've been beating up along the way. Now he's a cheating sumbitch because he'll poison you at the start of the fight and have some performers jump you along with him. Not gonna lie, it's a pretty hectic fight and you just have to get used to the poison stun, and that's the only tip I can give you. Is just get used to the poison stun. Other than that, there's not much of a challenge to fight. His health pool is not that big. You can easily beat him with one rage bar. After the mountains, though, we move on over to the top of the map and head to the Amukalai. I'm guessing that's how you say that. The ancient area filled with ancient machines. Adventuring through, we'll find 2 bosses. The first one being the Shadow Pseudo fight, where you get to fight yourself. And I love fights where you get to fight yourself. They either show me how good I became at the game and I'm better than myself, or I routinely get my ass handed to me and I get shown how ass I am at the game. Thankfully, there's a campfire / bonfire right next to him. He's an ultra aggressive, ultra fast boss, and he's the first boss I had to script. I could routinely bait out his thrust attack and punch it almost every single time. You can parry it pretty easily, get that easy rage bar fill, and then ham it out on him. Hey man, that's just gamer psychology for you. When the player finds the easy way to complete something, they will resort to it every time. And I will do that. After that fight, we'll end up returning to this area later in the game for an iconic fight from the first game, with the only returning character, Gollum. Kazte? This is getting harder with each name. He's the one who trained Pseudo and proceeds to beat Pseudo easily again. Gollum is Pseudo's master and proceeds to beat my ass pretty easily. Again, I immediately got destroyed by the man as he has counters and throws for everything. I had to keep my distance with him, hit him with a pop shot or two, and then just build a rage meter somehow and get some type of damage out of him until the fight came to an end. Are you catching the theme yet? Yeah, all the bosses in this game are extremely scriptable. They don't have many change-ups in their attack chains, if any at all, and you can almost always know what the second hit of a combo is going to be. Before that fight though, you get to choose to head to the salt marshes / coast, or you get to head to the Corwood territory. For me, I ended up going to the coast, and where there's a mini-boss of, I'm not even going to attempt to say this one's name. It's right there. Can't say it. Can barely spell it. I almost said crossword. He's literally a reskin rig though, and he doesn't seem to appreciate Sharkweed. And I will bring up, before the final boss, you get the biggest brawl in the entire game, where tons of minions take you on in what feels like a 1v7, even though it's a 1v5. It's just one of the minions is super huge. It's the biggest hit and run I have ever done, and it is a challenge. After that though, you get to face the final boss of the area, being the Outcast. He was a straight legit fight, nothing crazy special other than Avalon mini bosses. He had no gimmick. Maybe armor being a gimmick, but I doubt it. But it was a straight fight, never had to script him, felt like an honest brawl. It was a good time. After defeating the Outcast and conquering the coast, we get to a well who won't shut up for 5 minutes. I f***ing timed it. And we get to head to an iconic area from the other games known as the Corwood's territory. Now the Corwoods, I love them because they are legit crazy of the crazies. Now the Corwoods don't invoke the one law when the fight is going to start with them. It's on site all times, and they are not afraid to jump you immediately. It's amazing. The final boss's area is Axelon, and he's a deer man, and is a filthy cheater who just invokes the dice game so he can eat your dice. What a monster. After getting mad at him for swallowing your damn dice, it's time for a throwdown. It's a pretty easy one. The hardest part about him is actually the armored minion he brings into battle with him. Once she's gone though, Axelon just charges frequently and leaves himself open for pop shots. Was an easy time. And with that final artifact, we can now challenge the final boss, Gemini. But to do that, we must boss rush. This is why we didn't talk about the mini bosses in detail all this time. This is where they all show up. The first gatekeeper is Reg. He's the first and last giant boss in the game. He's a challenge in his first fight, but not so much in his last. He's got a huge parry window, allowing for an easy rage bar fill, leading to a quick victory. He's a simple man beaten by a simple plan. Our second fight is someone I haven't talked about yet. His name's Claw. Now throughout the game, Claw is the edgelord who's been harassing you at various points of the game. He's almost like a rival character of Pseudo, who's only been using his power for a fraction, by keeping a literal arm tied behind his back. Until you get him the second phase though, he is a fast boy, gives frequent openings, and punishes you with a combo that can very well take out your entire health bar. My favorite thing about Claw though is when he's defeated, he tries to go into a monologue, but Pseudo stomps his ass because we don't have time for that during a boss rush.
Oh, now you talk.
All this time, Pseudo, I was guided by a philosophy. The truth of my silence. My compliance with Gemini.
It was better when you didn't talk.
The finale of the boss rush is Moonsun, a big hammer wielding warrior. He's pretty straightforward, but he hits extremely hard, but he leaves huge openings due to this. You bait out some big swings, lame some shots until the rage bar fills and you win. Nothing extremely challenging yet. Love his design though. Now we finally made it to Gemini, and I must say, I hate this fight. She's relentless, and she hits extremely hard. Not a good combo. I hate it. The only thing I could do is script her fight to high hell and just bait out lunges and her weird spin attack, where I can only get 2 shots in at a time, back off and repeat. Made the fight feel lame, extremely long, and not a good time, but I could not find any other strat that would work for her. I will straight up take this easy way out of it. After all that, you'll finally head back to the beginning of the game, live out your life with the boy and Pseudo like the adoptive family you are. Psych! Boy's been stolen, Pseudo becomes enraged, chases after the captor, only for it to turn out to be Golem. The boy must be taken for his higher purpose by those who made Golem, but Pseudo cannot let this happen because he is his father. The fight ensues. Now this is a tough one because it's a gimmick secret final boss. As you hurt Golem, you hurt yourself. The only way to win is parry his moves until you get the rage. Unleash a brutal combo on him 3 times and you win. This, to my knowledge, is the only time Golem has been defeated in any Clash game. And that alone made this fight so cool to me. And power scaled Pseudo so hard in Clash universe. But then the boy comes out and says, I must go, my people need me, and leaves. Pseudo gets sad, weird triangle thing in the distance goes away, and music and credits. That is it. That is the game. Ramble time. Now this is my final thoughts for Clash Artifacts of Chaos. This is unscripted. Game's a game. It feels like a game. You know, it's not like a movie like Uncharted or anything. It feels like a game, and I really enjoy that. The only thing I hate is not knowing where to go and all the bosses being extremely scriptable. Now, for the parry mechanic, it's cool, but there should have been like a riposte to it. Like as soon as you parry, you get to like uppercut or some shit right after. If it had that, I think the mechanic would flow a lot better, other than just blocking or parrying everything, because it feels more like a block, even though it's not. Yeah, the music, dude. The music in this game goes so hard. It is so good. I love it. It's like, I don't know, it reminds me of Crash Bandicoot a lot, but like more insane. Like the random instruments I'm hearing is so good. I hate it. By that I mean I love it. I don't know why I said I hate it. I love it. That's it. This game is free on PlayStation right now. I'm pretty sure if you have the membership thing. I would give it a try, man. It's pretty short if you know what you're doing. It's only 6 hours. If you don't know what you're doing like me, it's probably more like 12. Other than that, you guys have a good one. I would say this game's like 6, 7 out of 10. 6.5. That sounds good. 6.5. I'm a hard gamer to impress. Pretty good game. Like it. You guys have a good one.